Welcome back. We're going to get back to the rescue efforts in Miami in just a moment. But first, after weeks of negotiations, President Biden and a bipartisan group of senators announced a deal on infrastructure spending. Let's bring in Democratic Senator Mark Warner of Virginia. He was part of the bipartisan group of senators that reached an agreement with the White House. And Senator Warner, thank you very much for being on the show. This first deal involves Republicans, but the president also wants another piece of legislation passed through reconciliation, and he wants both of those deals done in tandem. Is that possible without perhaps rankling Republicans?
Well, first of all, Mika, those images in Florida were horrible, and it not to connect, but it drives home the point. That we've got aging infrastructure in this country. And the deal that we announced, $579 billion of new spending over 5 years. It's roads, it's bridges, it's broadband, it's resiliency for coastal areas. It's making our grid much smarter. There's close to $100 billion of this is invested in new, cleaner energy generation for all of us who care about climate change. And we came together. The president has endorsed it. I think all of us knew that there was going to be a discussion about the other part of his plan, the human capital component. I'm very much in favor of also working on trying to make our tax code fairer. It's not fair that American businesses are, frankly, 35 out of 35 in terms of countries, in terms of our total corporate taxes, a percentage of our GDP. So I think we all knew they had to go, there were two processes here. I think there'll be deals worked through on, how much visibility we can get on the so-called reconciliation process. We always knew that was going to be only Democrats. I'm on the budget committee. I got to roll up my sleeves and get to work on that next. But I do think we should take a moment when we see so much acrimony and remember, this was broadly bipartisan. It does follow a bipartisan deal that we had on China a few weeks ago. And I point out, Mika, I was on your show a number of times back in the December timeframe when this same group put together the last of the COVID relief deals. So as much as we hear so much bad news out there, there are a group of us trying to still get stuff done.
Senator Warner, it's Jonathan Lemire. I want to pick up on that point, that there, in fact, is a little bit of bipartisan success here. And there's some progress made on the police reform bill as well. And we certainly know that President Biden has campaigned on this, that he really made a point of saying, I want to reach across the aisle and get things done. Having said that, yesterday there was this moment of sort of bipartisan triumph, but within hours after the president indeed announced that these two deals would be linked, the bipartisan group and the reconciliation package, a lot of Republicans, including Republican leader McConnell, blasted it and said this would fall apart because of this linkage. How confident are you right now that this bill, or should I say these bills, will actually be signed? Is this going to happen?
Well, again, predicting in what's going to happen in D.C., I'll leave to you guys. But I do know this, I was talking to my fellow members of the bipartisan group. We're starting now working with the appropriate chairs and ranking members on various committees to write a piece of legislation. That will take time, just as it did in the November timeframe. At the same time, as a member of the budget committee, I think Mitt Romney and I are the only two of the bipartisan group who are also on the budget committee, are going to start what's called this reconciliation process, which for your viewers who don't speak Washingtonese means that's the place where only one team does this. This is similar to the way the Republicans did their tax cut back in 2017. So it's a technique that's been used in the past. But there'll be healthy debate on the so-called reconciliation process. I know there's a lot of things on both revenues and some of President Biden's proposals that I'm very supportive of. I also know that some of my Democratic colleagues have much more ambitious goals. And, we're going to have the same kind of, back and forth negotiations we just went through with our Republican colleagues. So I think this will get done. There will be bumps. There will be twists and turns. We got to give you guys fodder to talk about each day. And I'm sure there'll be some ups and downs. But I think we're going to get this done because, again, the necessity of making sure we don't have bridges falling down, that we have broadband in every community, the communities are coastal are protected against sea level rise, that we start moving towards actually a smarter, more efficient power grid. That's critically important.
Senator Mark Warner, thank you so much for being on the show this morning. We appreciate it.